Hey friends, how's everyone doing today? Hope you're all having an amazing and super day so far. Tamie M coming to you from TamieMCoaching.com. And what I want to talk to you about today is something that I personally find rather interesting and fascinating. Inverted narcissism. Inverted narcissism. Have you heard of the term? I'm going to tell you, for all my years, and it's been a lot of years, like 15 or so years of rolling around in this information, of rolling around in recovery work, codependency recovery, adult child recovery, understanding what destructive narcissism is, how that shows up in all of its different flavors and manifestations, and what it means. I've never ever heard the term inverted narcissist until one day last week. I was doing whatever I was doing online, and I'm reading something, and something crossed my path, and this term inverted narcissism showed up, and I'm like, what the hell is an inverted narcissist? Never heard of it. So, me being me, I dove into a little research, and fascinating! The light bulbs went on, and it was like ding, 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 ding. Oh boy, this makes a whole lot of sense. So I want to share with you what I have recently learned about, the next sort of layer or flavor or understanding of, one of the many, many ways that this whole destructive, maladaptive personality disorder can show up and wreak havoc in the lives of others, right? If we haven't met before, I'm going to take a quick moment to introduce myself. My name is Tamie M. I am an empowerment coach for women. I help women break free from painful relationship patterns through a proven 8-week process called the Freedom Class. And if you'd like some information on the Freedom Class, you can go to www.TamieMCoaching.com. All the details are there, and there's a link at the bottom of the page to book a free strategy call with me and see if you're a fit for the program. So, inverted narcissism, what the hell is it? How do we know if that's what we're dealing with? And how do we spot it, right? So that's what we're going to talk about today. So first and foremost, in doing my research, I came across an article on Quora.com, and it didn't have the author's name, but she made a lot of really interesting points with regards to this particular phenomenon. So I want to give credit where credit is due. A good portion, not all of it, because I certainly put my 2 cents in here, great big huge, and I will do that even as we have the conversation. But a good portion came from an article on inverted narcissism, so you can check that out on Quora.com. I see we have some people hopping on here. Julie, how are you? Nice to see you. Thanks for hopping on. And everybody else just flew past. So welcome, friends. Thanks for joining. Do me a favor, if you're catching the broadcast live, drop me a 1 in the comments. If you're catching the replay, drop a 2. And if you're new to my live broadcast, let me know you're new and let me know where you're coming in from so I can reach out and say hello and welcome. So, inverted narcissism, what is it and how to spot it? Gotta tell you, the light bulbs went on for me, because when I was really sort of digging in and, reading up what I could about it, what I could find about this particular term, it was like I immediately, 3 key people in my life came to mind. And it was like, how things just line up? It was like everything just came into focus. Oh, that's what that is. I just thought they were really, really progressed codependents who had seriously underdeveloped narcissism, right? Like, now this gets a little tricky and confusing. So if you have any questions, drop them in the comments or send me a private message. But I'll just say that, it's a spectrum, right? Like codependency, narcissism, empathy, those of us who are highly empathic, we live on a continuum, on a spectrum, right? So, those of us who were fortunate enough to grow up in healthy, nurturing, affirming families, in particular from 0 to 7 during our formative years, we would have developed healthy narcissism, a healthy sense of self, of self-esteem, of self-love, of internal and external boundaries, of where you end and I begin, a healthy sense of self, healthy narcissism. Those of us, which is frankly, the vast majority of us here on planet Earth. And things are shifting and we are starting to wake up, and that's the good news. But the vast majority of us grew up in families where, you know, we were not receiving the healthy, unconditional love, nurture, support, affirmation, validation, consistent, predictable. Therefore, we did not develop healthy narcissism. Right? And again, we live on a continuum, on a spectrum. So depending on the severity of our traumas, depending on a lot of factors, quite frankly, depending on the equipment we landed on planet Earth with, we don't all come to this place with the same equipment, the same tools, the same fortitude, right? Depending on the trauma we experience, the severity of it, the consistency of it, depending on what we endured in our formative years, we may come into adulthood as, you know, codependents, as severe codependents, and as destructive narcissists, and, you know, and on it goes all the way to, you know, major antisocial behaviors, right? So all of that is to say, understand that these issues are never black and white. There is a continuum, there is a spectrum that we're talking about, and it can get a little tricky, especially if you're new to it. But once you sort of get like a snapshot, especially if you're measuring the information against your personal life experience, the light switches sort of start to come on, and it's like, okay, I'm starting to get it now, right? So there's a few folks who, when I came across this term, like I said, inverted narcissism, and I started doing some research, it was like, it all makes sense now, right? There's 3 key people that it was like the light bulbs came on, and all this time I just had them chalked up to be really, really, really ill, really progressed codependents, because these issues are progressive left untreated. So untreated codependency, as the decades go on, you get worse, never better, just like an alcoholic or a drug addict, right? So your underdeveloped narcissism, although, you know, a codependent, especially a highly empathic one, will still have a conscience, will still have empathy. Their behavior and their attitudes can be incredibly selfish and self-centered, right? And again, left untreated, it gets worse, never better. So there can be fractures in their capacity for empathy, or they're, you know, like they are very empathic here, but not so much there. They understand the consequences of their behavior here, but not so much there. It's really fascinating the way that it manifests. Not in a good way, but it is what it is. Welcome to planet Earth, human beings on planet Earth, right? This is what we are dealing with, and we are waking up. We are in the process of waking up from the deep unconsciousness that so many of us have, you know, lived in our lives, right? So this term, inverted narcissism, first and foremost, it's a made-up term. You're not going to find this in the DSM, okay? You're not going to find this in the DSM of the American Psychiatric Association. It is a made-up term, but it fits. And to me, it's, you know, when I come across new information that helps us crystallize and understand what we're dealing with in these areas, it's just a sign of the progressive awakening that we are going through collectively, humanity waking up to these issues and putting language to all of the different flavors of the unconsciousness. We need to look at it, not be in denial about it, understand it in order to be able to heal it, right? So although it is a made-up term, it fits, it applies. I know, because I've seen it firsthand in my life a number of times. This is a real thing. So let's get into it. What is it? First of all, it's a made-up term. It is meant to describe a codependent, covert narcissist who gets off on the highs in a relationship with another destructive narcissist. So destructive narcissists are codependents, right? They are dependent on another individual for their narcissistic supply. If they can't manipulate and control you anymore because you've gone no contact, you're now taking care of yourself, and you're out of there, they'll go find someone else. They are codependent in that they are reliant on someone else for their narcissistic supply, their energetic, emotional, narcissistic supply. They need to demean you, they need to manipulate you, they need to control you, they need to scapegoat you, they need to gaslight you in order to prop themselves up. They need to use you as the dumping ground for their projections. They need to project what they cannot accept about themselves onto others in order to prop themselves up, right? So, an inverted narcissist is meant to describe, so the term inverted narcissism is meant to describe a codependent, covert narcissist who gets off on the highs in a relationship with another destructive narcissist. So I hope that's clear for starters. We've got a codependent for simplicity, a destructive narcissist, but it's important to know that as they travel up the spectrum and the sicker they become, because these issues are progressive, the codependent displays more and more narcissistic traits. It's also important to understand that the destructive narcissist is also codependent. Right? So fascinating, and this is, fascinating the way this stuff works, but two pieces of a puzzle that fit. But that's essentially what an inverted narcissist is, a codependent, covert narcissist who gets off on the highs in a relationship with another destructive narcissist. Now, we'll go on to say that they try to control and manipulate the narcissist in their own way. They too are controlling and manipulative and will manipulate the narcissist in their own way. Now listen, let's be honest. A codependent is controlling and manipulative. Left untreated, your garden variety codependent, although might have a heart of gold and is a giver and a doormat and a martyr and unconditionally loving and still high empathy, can be quite manipulative and controlling in their dis-ease, in their illness, until they start to deal with their own issues. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a whole other level of control and manipulation. And the focus of their control and manipulation is the destructive narcissist. But I'll keep going and it'll start to make sense, I hope. They are the great champion enablers. So we're describing codependence here, right? But understand, way up on the spectrum, well into destructive narcissism themselves. So they are the great champion enablers, protecting, defending, and enabling the narcissist. Protecting, defending, and enabling the narcissist. So when I read that, I was like, ding, with the light bulbs. Like, we all know codependents who are enablers, but this is a whole other league here that we're talking about in terms of protecting, defending, and enabling the destructive narcissist. Like, in spite of how diabolical the narcissist behavior may be, an example would be, and this is horrific stuff, but it happens every day here on planet Earth, so let's just be real and talk about it. A father who is manipulating their children, and a mother, molesting their children is what I meant to say, happens every day here on planet Earth. So we'll get real and we'll talk about the real deal, okay? So as an example, a father who is sexually exploiting and perpetrating on his children, and a mother who is well aware of what's going on and does nothing to defend or protect or rescue or save her children, rather defends and protects and enables the actual pedophile, destructive narcissist. Kind of stuff that goes on all the time. I can't tell you the number of people that have shared with me that particular experience, and you got to wonder, what the hell is wrong? I mean, the father's bad enough, right? Like, that's pretty freaking evil. It's pretty freaking sick. But what the hell is wrong with a mother who can stand by and watch that happen? And for those of you who think that, like, this is, Trust me, this happens every day, a whole lot more than you would like to know. Probably people that you are in contact with, that you know, the likelihood that you know someone who has actually lived that experience up close and personal, not that slim, my friends, not that slim. So that is just, it's a harsh example, but it's an example of how this can show up. The great champion enablers. And that's, like I said, that's a harsh example. I mean, I can think of, you know, some women that I know who have just been going through life in these relationships, you know, these Stepford wives, and you're like, I mean, that's codependency, but that's a whole other level, because you know what the kids have lived. And you know what, you know, it's, you know, like if you've gotten close enough to have a look, it's not all as perfect as it looks from the outside, right? What the hell is going on? Well, inverted narcissism is what's going on. So I will continue. Fascinating, fascinating subject. They are submissive and accept their position as a subordinate without question. They are submissive, covert narcissists, codependent covert narcissists who get off on the highs in a relationship with another destructive narcissist. Therefore, they choose to be submissive and accept their position as a subordinate without question. They get off on the sick power dynamic while secretly pulling their own strings on the dominant narcissist. The inverted narcissist has no desire to break free or heal from codependency because, like the dominant narcissist, they are too far gone for change. That's the thing. There's like a line that gets crossed when we're talking about destructive narcissism where, you know, like I have these conversations with clients all the time, like, honey, you're not going to change them. They are well defended against knowing the reality of themselves and what's really going on. They are well defended, have been for a very, very long time. They are, speak to a professional psychiatrist about it. Speak to whoever you need to understand that they are well defended against treatment. What would be required for them to actually heal, grow, develop, evolve out of the deep, deep unconsciousness that they are in? They are too far gone. Well, as is an inverted narcissist, has no desire to break free or heal from codependency because, like the dominant narcissist, they are too far gone to change, to fully know right from wrong, to fully know right from wrong. I'm going to highlight that, to fully know right from wrong. Do you have anyone like that in your life? You're like, what is that? What is that, right? That's what that is. And deal in reality. In other words, they are stuck in their own web of denial. They are stuck in their own web of denial, lies, distortion, and delusion. In comparison, an empath, or otherwise typical garden variety codependent, grew up in a, not so nurturing home, has codependent traits, is highly empathic and, codependent, therefore a good magnet for a narcissist, right? As are many of my clients, that combination. In comparison, an empath or an otherwise typical garden variety codependent might get involved with a narcissist or a few. Sometimes, if you're anything like me, you had to go through a half a dozen or so before you were like, whoa, like what's wrong with me that I'm the common denominator here? So what's, right? So you either get involved with a narcissist or maybe a few, but eventually you begin to wake up. We are people with a conscience, with empathy, with a certain amount of common sense. Not to say that we haven't lived some of our life in denial that we needed to for survival, but we begin to wake up and decide being the operative word here, decide to break free and heal from codependency and the trauma bond addiction. Painful, uncomfortable, it passes. It's worth the work, I promise you. So in comparison, an empath or otherwise typical garden variety codependent might get involved with a narcissist or even a few, eventually begin to wake up, decide to break free and heal from codependency and the trauma bond addiction, embrace reality, truth, and common sense. The inverted narcissist will not do this because they live for the highs that the narcissist gives them. They live for the highs that the narcissist gives them. You guys getting some value out of this? If you like what you're hearing, drop a comment and let me know what's resonating. If you're catching me live, drop me a 1. If you're catching the replay, drop a 2. If you're new to my live broadcast, let me know you're new. Let me know where you're coming in from so I can reach out and say hello. And if you hopped on late, be sure to go back and watch the replay when we're done so that you can catch all the goods. So I'm going to have a sip of water here before we go on. The good news is the vast majority of you, I'm going to venture to say 99% of you who tune in are the highly empathic. You might be on the road to recovery. You might be new to the road to recovery, but you are definitely those of us who are among those of us who are waking up. That's the good news. This information is meant to help you see it so you can see it coming and understand what the hell you're dealing with so that you can take good care of yourself. So you can recognize what the hell's going on or has gone on in your life historically. Like if, you're still lost and confused about what the hell the first 2 or 3 decades of your life with your family of origin was all about, that's the purpose of this information, to help sort of unravel and make sense of, a lot of the stuff that many of us have lived and serve you so that, it doesn't end there. I mean, there's more work to do, but the big step forward is serve you so that you are well armed. You are well armed to start taking better care of yourself. So, the inverted narcissist will not do that. Wake up, get help, look to heal from codependency and the trauma bond and all of that, because they live for the highs that the narcissist gives them. So the narcissist gets narcissistic supply from diminishing you, manipulating you, controlling you, hurting you, discarding you, whatever it is that they need to do to support their false sense of superiority and all the other garbage that goes on. Well, these folks actually get off on the highs in the power dynamic with the dominant narcissist. I've seen this. Now I really know what it is. It's like, holy cow. Fascinating stuff. So they have impaired empathy as well. And that was a big one because it was like, now it makes sense. They have impaired empathy as well. Seriously impaired empathy as well. They pretend to be nice and sweet, like ever so bloody charming when they want to be. Again, the whole Stepford wife thing is a, really good example, like to bring to mind what we're talking about. They play the victim really well. They're always the victim, very much like the destructive narcissist, right? Like they're always the victim. They play the victim very well. But they are almost as dark as the dominant narcissist. That's the truth. That's the reality. They are almost, if not as dark as the destructive narcissist. So really important information to have, because these people are dangerous. Right? So really important information to have. The narcissist is all about him or herself. They will throw anyone under the bus to feel how he or she needs or wants to feel, right? The inverted narcissist is all about the dominant narcissist. The inverted narcissist will throw anyone under the bus to make their narcissist feel the way he or she needs to feel. My jaw dropped when I read that, because about a half a dozen major life experiences that I had historically came to mind, like flooded my brain all at once. And I've been rolling around in this conversation and this information for the better part of 15 years, my friends. Like, I'm not new to this stuff at all. Like, I got a really good grasp on this. My whole life has been a training ground for codependency and narcissistic abuse recovery. I have read countless books. Hours, hundreds, if not thousands of hours have I listened to in terms of, training and information and you name it, right? And I read that and I was like, wow. Wow, did the lights go on? The inverted narcissist is all about the dominant narcissist. The inverted narcissist will throw anyone under the bus to make their narcissist feel the way he or she wants to feel. They quite literally are the dominant narcissist little sidekicks who again are also empathy deficient, lacking in conscience. The wires that meet that cause you and I to have the pangs of guilt, they don't connect with these people. They don't connect with these people. And they aren't likely to start connecting in this lifetime. They can feign empathy, they can feign remorse, but it's a manipulation. There's an agenda. There's something they are afraid of losing, or they want, or they feel they need to protect, whether that's an image, a persona, or whatever. It's feigned. Don't fall for it. So they quite literally are the dominant narcissist little sidekicks who again are also empathy deficient and also have a deformed moral compass. These people don't play by the same rules that you and I play the game of life by. Really important that we understand that. Like, that's part of the reason, especially those of us who are highly empathic and we're so sensitive and we care so much and we love so deeply and we just don't freaking understand, and we end up so wounded because we would never consider doing to another human being what these people do. It wouldn't even occur to us. So we cannot believe that they are capable of doing and saying some of the things that they do and say, but they do. So accepting that they aren't wired the same way that we are, and they don't play on the same level. They aren't playing on a level playing field with us. They don't play the game of life by the same rules that we do. Really, really important that we accept that we take that in, that we get that. Where was I? So basically, an inverted narcissist is a very cowardly, covert narcissist. In my experience, a very cowardly, sweet, charming, everything looks fabulous on the outside. Lots of energy goes into that, right? But they're actually, underneath it all, a very cowardly narcissist who needs a big boss dominant narcissist to get their hit or fix their version of narcissistic supply. And again, you know, like I said, this is not an official, you know, DSM, manipulative personality disorder definition. It's a, you know, relatively new. I've just came across it last week, so it's got to be relatively new term. I had never heard of it before, but I can tell you based on my life experience, both personally and professionally, it freaking fits. There's a certain category of high-level, seriously progressed, very ill, codependent that's crossed over into the destructive narcissistic area of the spectrum who fits this bill, who can spend decades in a relationship with a destructive narcissist, propping them up and protecting them and enabling them and defending them in spite of their horrible, destructive, unhealthy is an understatement often, behavior and the consequences of those behaviors and attitudes on others, including their children. Scary stuff. This smacks of People of the Lie by Scott Peck, a book I read like a decade ago. Dr. Scott Peck wrote a book, People of the Lie, because he was having these experiences in his professional practice with these people completely devoid of conscience, and often it would be like a couple that would show up. It's not like just the codependent wife and the abusive, you know, narcissistic husband. It was like the couple were in cahoots, and that's what he's describing. That's what he's describing, this dynamic Really, really interesting. Guys, I hope you got some value out of that today, some fascinating value. I personally found it fascinating when I came across that and did my little research, and all the light bulbs went on. So I hope the light bulbs went on for some of you and you connected some dots and further understand maybe a little bit of what you've lived, what you are living, what the hell is going on with these deeply unconscious people that we need to protect ourselves from, and we need to stay the hell away from, and we need to do our own work so that we are no longer unconsciously compelled towards them and magnetically attracting them into our lives. When we up level and heal whatever it is that causes us to want them and draw them into our lives, when we heal that stuff, everything changes. Everything changes. When we shift that stuff on the inside, the outside will begin to shift as well. So again, I hope you got some value out of that. If you liked what you heard, remember to like, comment, and or share. Once again, my name is Tamie M. I am an empowerment coach for women. I help women break free from painful relationship patterns so they can experience the love that they deserve at long last. Because Lord knows we all deserve healthy love. Whether we got it when we were young or not, we certainly can choose it today. And we have to choose it. So I have an 8-week program called the Freedom Class that walks you through a transformational process and gives you a kick-ass education, as well as a whole toolkit full of tools to help you in this regard. If you want some information on that, you can go to TamieMCoaching.com. All the deets are there, and at the bottom of the page, you can click a little link that says apply now to book a free strategy call with me. And with that, I'm going to call it a wrap. So thank you, friends, for hopping on. If you hopped on late, be sure to go back and watch the replay so you can catch all the details. And I will look forward to catching up with you on Friday. How's Friday sound? We'll make it a date. Catch up with you on Friday. Enjoy the rest of your day. Mwah. Much love. Know your value. Know your value and unlock your freedom. Bye for now.